to the Boise State Esports Arena. We are live here in downtown Boise, and we have a great match for you tonight in PEC Overwatch. We got two great teams facing up against each other. We've got Boise State versus Southern California. Only one winner can leave here tonight. We're about to decide that winner right now. I'm your host, AJ Pepley, and I'm joined by Zach Munson. Now, Zach, I've got a great question for you to start off the night. So, seeing BSU and Southern California, both of their strategies in the past, I have to ask, what do you expect to see from them when it comes to adapting to the situations in the moment, whether it comes to team composition, player pick, strategies, anything like that? What do you think we'll see tonight?
Well, that's a very important aspect of Overwatch in general, and I think that the real key here, the ticket, is not only identifying that there is a problem, but what the actual solution to that problem may be. Like, if it's hard to get onto site, like what could possibly be an issue with that, whether it's switching like a character or just changing up a play style, because Overwatch has a lot of intricacies, and so identifying problems and knowing how to fix them quickly is very important for Overwatch players.
Yeah, exactly. We know so much about these fast-paced shooter games. It's really important to have the good reaction time in the moment, but at the same time, we know that strategizing in the middle of these matches, switching up things that you need to have switch up is just as important. And I expect we will be seeing some of that here tonight too, because these pro players are pro for a reason. I'm really excited to see what they got for us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're really good, so I'm excited to kind of get into the game and see what's going on. This is our lineup here. We have Amanda Bailey, Cannon Miller, Garrett Strickler, Carter Jones, Will Hess, and Jenny Cummins. And they're all great players, so I'm excited to see what they can bring out and kind of show off a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited because we know that these people are super good, and I'm really excited to see what kind of strategies they can pull out without any of us even expecting it. Now, going to throw myself under the bus here. I'm not great at these games personally, which is why I'm casting for it instead. But I know that these people have so much practice and so many hours put into these specific things. So I'm really excited to see what they can put together, because usually I'm not expecting it, and that's my favorite part about watching this stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of also see the communication and how they're going to get along together, because that's a very, very important part of Overwatch, especially is, like you were saying, with such fast-paced action and mechanics, making sure that you have a clear game plan and you understand what you need to do. That can be very difficult, and also it kind of separates the wheat from the chaff in a way, you know, the good teams from the great teams. So hopefully both squads can do that, because I'd like a close game today.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited. Hopefully that we'll get a chance to talk to these players, because I'd love to hear their strategies from them directly. That's always so much fun.
Yeah. Overwatch in general, I mean, we got Doc's keys to the game. I'll let you present that. Yeah, of course.
All right, so in Overwatch, we've got one main key with a few sub-keys with it. In Overwatch, you should never never taking a fair fight means a few specific things. One, taking fights in unexpected places. It's always really good to keep the enemy team on their toes, you gotta always be ready for what they can pull out, but always at the same time be ready to throw out anything that you have. Secondly, kind of going off of that, is make sure that they're unprepared. So if you can sneak up behind them, flank them properly, anything like that, as long as they're not ready for it, that's how you can win a fight. And finally, tempo, tempo, tempo. It's really important to have a specific strategy that you have, anything like that. It's so important. Today we'll be starting off Control with Elio, something we see quite frequently, but it's always so much fun. I'm always hoping for that third round to see the well, because it's always so much fun, especially if they're playing somebody with high CC, like a Roadhog or a Lucio. I'm really looking forward to that, but of course we got to start off with what we always start off with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a staple pick, but at the same time, it's always enjoyable to watch, so I am not opposed to seeing the Ilios come out.
Absolutely not. We got a great game coming up here, Boise State versus Southern California. Hopefully soon we will be seeing what they decide to choose for their real picks. We'll talk about that there.
Yeah, I think, well, as obviously the players get better themselves at a decently high level, you kind of get to see some very similar picks. You have like the hit scan staples, the Ashe, the Cassidy, and then of course you have the flex DPS, the Tracer, and the Genji, the support lineups, of course, and there's a lot of mirror matchups in Overwatch. It's a game with a very, very defined meta that people are very cautious to kind of venture into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, and we see that starting out here, just like you mentioned. We see an Ashe, two Ashe. So here we see the team that's pushing forward, getting close to that mapping.
Tracer here. Flank coming through as Dude actually gets de-mech'd, and that can spell disaster here, so really.
Yeah, we see a lot of long range through on a very long range match, but people got to be real careful to keep watching everything happening. No one California has captured the point so far in the story.
Yeah, I mean, the comp here with the Wrecking Ball is so susceptible. But at the same time, the Honor, Larry, and Ash are it's difficult to kind of get involved and kind of walk up here.
Slowly getting built up, nothing so far from the This is the first one that happens, and we're expecting to see a lot more of that. Honor is always at what it is. You are doing a great job staying in a good all while keeping it.
Yeah, ultimate advantage is somewhat in the favor of Lazy State here as the Americans are playing strong line. And a bit of a messy engagement with disruption from the Wrecking Ball is serving as a pretty difficult California as the Tracer is kind of along with
they just need to get back on and take it. Get it right. Put out that bomb at the pretty good Southern California.
Yeah, Southern California's Ash Harris is starting to wake up here, getting a quite a few important injuries in this Lazy State. I don't know if they're for a second, but Ash is definitely cutting a big injury, but they are putting a high on their ultimates.
Better staying back, being careful, very
some of that point. Bob kind of putting in his due diligence there on the back line, actually catching the brig early. And that one kind of kicked off the whole comeback. Southern California never really able to get a foot in the door with the ultimate advantage.
We always know that these quick eliminations with these quick ultimate drops is very crucial because that can always just set off, well, a wrecking ball, pun intended there. Because that one little thing it's like a set of dominoes. One thing happens and it all just goes downhill if you play it exactly right. And we saw that there at the end. Once that Bob got dropped, Boise State was able to eliminate the entire team and get that last percentage winning in that first round.
Yeah, ultimates are very important, and a lot of the times saving them up and using them can win a fight, but the problem is doing such things, it can kind of lead to big issues. Like Southern California really weren't able to get back into it after the first fight that they won.
down by Strider as he can but bird's eye view on the entire map, making sure nobody can get forward. As we now see that nano boost also get ready. Currently, Boise State has that also
supports actually caught. This is going to be pretty much impossible to win from Southern California. They're going to really hope to repeat maybe touch one more time for
eliminated Strider as Frost also goes down. We see Boise State falling like dominoes out of nowhere.
Yeah, supports in the back. It was maybe a little ambitious from Boise State as Boise supports weren't really able to get in on a play and have to get this front over and hopefully not lose anything more as the supports are still in a bit of trouble. Is going to be a Boise State victory here.
Absolutely, they don't have much time to get back there unless they can pull something out real fast. It seems like this first one might be in the favor of Boise State.
I'm a dog, maybe looking for That was a good performance from Boise State. I think they were handedly in control the whole time, and I think a lot of that was due to the Wrecking Ball and Tracer just never really relenting and didn't let the Ash get any sort of results.
Absolutely. We saw them working very well as a team. I always love watching Wrecking Ball specifically because most tanks, you see them just getting right up in the action. And of course, he definitely did a lot of that during that game. But we could see that Strider was doing a lot of hanging back and watching up from high ground areas and swinging in when he had to. So like we were talking about with the keys of the game, making sure that the enemy team's unprepared, Wrecking Ball is so good at catching the team off guard. So I love to see him get played so well. And like you said, we saw the Tracer playing it so well, and the other three supports just doing everything they can to keep him alive because they could not have done that were they not being kept alive the whole time. So great team play from them.
Yeah, so in California they didn't look absolutely lost.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, it was definitely it could have possibly gone both ways. I think just at the end of the day, the kind of coordination between the teams was a difference. As a lot of times you would see the Wrecking Ball engage and catch the Juno or catch the Ash, and it wasn't really responded very quickly. And I think that was kind of what ended up being a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we'll see in these future matches, we might see a bit of a change in strategy from Southern California, or even from BSU themselves. Because while this first strategy might have worked really well in their favor, maybe they're expecting for Southern California to adapt. So we might see a change in their plans too. But we can only find out by watching this next game.
Yeah, certain maps definitely tend to favor certain comps, and as well as the Wrecking Ball and the Tracer might work on this map, they could very well not work as well on the next map.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, to be fair, we only got a few options for the next one, and if things go how I expect, it might not be much different from what they're used to. But I gotta hold out hope, just in case. It doesn't usually go well in my favor, but hey, here's hoping, because it might just work out, but we'll just have to wait and see, right?
Yeah, one more thing to be noted about Boise State's performance is, I think, except for maybe one time on Elias, I think they managed to rein themselves in pretty well, and despite such an aggressive front line of the Tracer and the Wrecking Ball, it never really felt like they were getting too involved to the point of it being dangerous to them.
Yeah, absolutely. You always got to make sure that you know what fights you can win. And it seems like they always knew that. Tracer and Wrecking Ball are both very mobile heroes. So we saw them constantly retreating when they had to. But it seemed like they were fairly confident most of the time, and it worked out in their favor. So clearly, they know exactly what they're doing. I would not want to go up against Boise State now, would I?
Yep, and there it is.
Yep. Once again, I was proven wrong, but it's always worth hoping. We've got Kings Row, a staple for Overwatch esports. Personally, I'm expecting to see a lot of the same picks from this too. Maybe even that typical Widowmaker first shot from the offensive team. Maybe a May and a Reinhardt in there somewhere. But we can only find out here in a moment.
I kind of want them to play Widow the whole time. This is the Widowmaker map.
That is
King's
true.
Row.
We see her get pulled out a lot at the very start, but she doesn't really stay very often.
Yeah, King's Row is a map that serves very well to verticality. So anything with like the grapple hook, you know, Echo's glide, the Pharah rockets. Pretty much anything with a lot of vertical mobility is very good on King's Row, and I wouldn't be surprised to see any of that. I honestly would not be shocked to see another Wrecking Ball here because it seemed like with the way it performed and King's Row, the map itself, I think we could have that in store for us.
Yeah, exactly. The way he can deal damage and a lot of knockback just by swinging around itself, having all those tight corridors and alleyways might prove really handy for him. So if Strider sticks with that Wrecking Ball, that could work well in their favor. But of course, we usually see like Reinhardt, Ramatra, Orisa, any of those ones usually, they'd also be great picks. But hey, maybe Strider is just an expert Wrecking Ball player. I mean, we've seen it already, so it really I wouldn't put it past him.
I think from the side of Southern California as well, I think they might want to go towards a Ramatra and a Reinhardt, just something that can kind of protect their backline a little better than what we saw in Ilios.
Absolutely. We're getting started here in a little bit. We got a next great game, Boise State versus Southern California. See who will be winning this fight here soon. I'm really excited to see this fight. Here we see Strider still sticking with that Wrecking Ball. So that's going to be interesting. And we do see Uzai playing as Orisa, and a little bit of change in that composition all around. Like you mentioned, that Pharah, we see Lyric playing Pharah. Sorry, Anna, I am completely wrong. ZZZ playing Pharah. Could make that high ground, being able to fly around, very helpful.
Yeah, it seems like the response to the Wrecking Ball causing so much mayhem is the Cassidy flashbang is gonna come out and attempt to kind of stop the momentum of the ball. So we're gonna have to see if that actually works out. Because it's definitely an interesting play. It seems like they kind of give it up to choke here in 3, and South Carolina walking up already looking to go kind of towards the high ground. Also, has to be careful. Southern California are actually going to get a tip of the point here as they push one, and it looks like Strider is waiting for the down.
You're powered up. Destroy them.
Suddenly, just something went wrong and they weren't able to anymore. I think they got a little bit split up, and the coordination with Strider's dives with the rest of the team just kind of got lost for a minute, and now Southern California are able to take the point and move it on.
Brace yourself.
Goes down to the up all around. Basically, ultimate advantage to 918. Barely get that far.
Do something!
So
We saw that double kill from Frost there at the end, got them that payload back, and so maybe they'll be able to hold it. They still got 3 minutes on the clock, so Southern California still has a pretty high chance, especially with the ultimate advantage right now.
it looks like the response to Southern California is incredibly aggressive. Alyssa pushing up and getting some hit on viewers is actually Sojourn. Because with an Alyssa playing so aggressive like that, the Sojourn, I feel like they're going to have 100% rail run uptime and kind of be able to get all those shots off every time. Actually gets one in the back, and this is almost able to take down Aris, spins around the other side, barely not being able to see him, but not good headers on him. And it looks like a sort of reset to his first
Not so fast.
but Spinner gets Aris.
Still managing to keep it up. BSC's doing a great job of holding them back.
So far, Alyssa only gets the pop, but I imagine it'll be a good combination here with the Pharah. Golden State still handled this online, and with also getting back. Really finally takes down two guys. Isn't able to get the foot one and bring it home.
Thanks for the help.
Very hard. 13 seconds left on the clock. That drop the barrage and then energy right around the same time as the one.
Stand your ground. Area denied. This ends now. With it. Justice reigns. I'm not a fan of setbacks.
Southern California have got to be very happy that they get that, but they only have a minute to get it in all the way.
Absolutely. Great play from Southern California, but they don't have much time, just like you said. So Boise State still has a pretty good chance of keeping them from the end, but in this game mode, it's much different.
Stop the payload.
Southern California aren't really at the same level.
Yeah, well, we still see Southern California with that local way. Touching them too, so they ended up pretty close. Pretty good with overtime now. They're pushing the payload forward.
was insane from Doom Guy.
Right to the end. Great play from Doom Guy. That ult drop there at the end took them that entire payload right to the end. A great play from Southern California. Frankly, not one that I was expecting.
Yeah.
But they did really manage to pull it through, especially the moment they captured that point. They pushed real hard.
Yeah,
Great play from them.
you could tell Doom Guy was feeling it that whole attack half. He was always about like 15 feet ahead of the rest of his team. They were all trying to catch up to him while he was shooting everyone, getting involved in the backline. And at the end, they did it. They saved up everything. They gave him the nano. They gave him all the support possible. And he pushed Bob off the map.
Absolutely.
Got everyone to one shot. With his ult, and then cleaned up 3 or 4 by himself and pushes the point in as the last man standing. Good play out from him, but Boise State definitely able to respond here as we do see that Widow that you mentioned.
Absolutely. We'll see if Doom Guy does his great job of staying alive as he did prior, because he would not go down in a lot of these fights, but maybe this Widow will be exactly what they need to take her down, because Widow is such a high DPS character.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Diamond Dog also has a great experience with dishing out a lot of great shots.
Oh,
So
yeah.
hopefully we'll see some great eliminations from his part. Maybe this will just be a temporary thing. Who knows?
Yeah. Into the composition of Southern California, I would like to see him stay on Widow for a while here. I think he could definitely get something done, as Ash is a pretty easy target, Ana is a pretty easy target, Gino's head is pretty big, and Fall flies, so hopefully he can get something done here.
Spider hiding behind that vent. He doesn't want to get too close, too fast.
Yeah, Southern California already a bit split up, of course Strider already active, actually taken down very low and quickly eliminated. Shots close to Gino, but not quite finding anything, and it looks like Southern California are really cautious of this despite Diamond Dog's best efforts and some good looks at a shot here.
Very dangerous target. So doing everything they can to keep him off this point. They're doing a great job so far, but they still have 2 minutes on the clock, so there's still a lot of time to make a change.
And he's not really allowing these dives to come through, as maybe, actually not, somehow. kind of just putting 4 on cart and have Strider going in the back, and it's working perfectly well for them. And they're going to have a lot more time in Southern California having this game. Somewhat coming online here, and good stall from Southern California. Every second is going to matter because they really cannot afford to lose this lead more than a minute, or the best they can do is draw this one. So they're going to be really holding here. Blue guy has his own, as we know.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Bara.
This goal could be massive here if Frost is able to get one in. This is the battle of the tanks here. Really, they both showed up to play, and the Wrecking Ball is looking insane because a lot of good tank players, they just aren't able to kind of understand Wrecking Ball on the same level as a lot of their other picks. But Strider is looking great on that character, and I think he's probably a very large factor in why Boise State is looking to come out ahead here.
No, absolutely, but we cannot discount Doomguy's abilities as that Orisa. We saw he would not go down. That Orisa is such a good character for just staying alive and staying on those specific points that you have to keep control of, or those payloads or whatever. The fact that she just has so much health mixed with her able to just stay alive with defense, and the way she's able to get healed was just great plays all around.
Yeah, he had an insane clutch at the end there. It was like a 1v3 or a 1v4 that he was able. That's the only reason we're even right here right now.
Absolutely.
It's because of his play. So Doomguy looking to go up against Strider again is battle of the tanks. They're really clashing it out here.
Yeah, but I always love to watch these other longer range DPSs, like we see Ash on both sides, as well as that Widow being brought out at the start, just like we saw last time. So we'll see what happens here with this last little bit of the game.
Yeah, Diamond Dog and Eris both looking like a threat on the Ash for sure. And ZZZ, of course, was playing very well on Farah.
We saw Ross.
I am always ready to learn.
Boise State a minute 38 to get one hit here. Southern California going to try on and not lose that match.
Mind yourself.
The defense from SoCal so far. Try to manage to stay alive fortunately in the problematic situation, but Hex unfortunately does not have the same fate as he also goes down as well.
Yeah, Boise State now, Frost and Strider looking like squatters in the apartment at Kings Row. Kind of waiting for the rest of the team to get back. Yeah, say those tanks, if you're on either team, if you're on Southern California, Strider is the boogeyman, ready to come in and take you down at any time. And if you're on Boise State, Doomguy is the boogeyman, ready to come in. I think he was controlling that close left angle really well, and he got a lot of kills from that position.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it seems like Southern California just had too good of a strategy there for that last little minute and a half that Boise State had left. And so we see ourselves with a draw, which we don't really see around here very often now, do we? But it's always exciting because it means we've just got more Overwatch to watch and more to talk about, and that's always my favorite part.
Yes, that was really interesting how obviously the whole game plan out of Boise State was to get in with the Echo and get in with the Wrecking Ball, and when it works really well. Their first attack looked great, but then sometimes when there's a bit of a disruption, like Doomguy going in and getting involved, like it kind of got a little bit messy.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do know that these people, they just, like we mentioned earlier, their ability to just switch strategies in the middle of fights, in the middle of games. We saw how Southern California was able to do that, and BSU too, because it went really well in Southern California's favor, and then went really well in BSU's favor, even slightly better than Southern California. So they knew they had to pull something together there right at the end, and it seems like they did, and it worked out so well that they managed to lead us to a draw, which isn't something that I was expecting personally, but hey.
Yeah,
like I said, more Overwatch.
Yeah, they were really adapting there. Diamond Dog played at least 4 or 5 different characters. He was on the Sojourn, the Ashe,
the Widowmaker.
The Widowmaker, yeah. So, and on the Tracer at the beginning.
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
definitely these teams aren't scared to adapt at all.
We can tell that he has a lot of different characters that he can play between, and so he's not somebody to mess with. Like we mentioned before, on the Dog's keys, like keeping them unprepared, knowing when to catch them off guard. If you're able to switch between these characters so much, it might take a little bit more time for the enemy team to adapt, and that might be exactly what you need to win these specific rounds. So we saw that worked out in a few different places. So great plays from them.
And obviously a draw means that they were both pretty evenly matched on that map in particular, and I think a lot of that praise does have to go the way of Doomguy, but his supports were definitely keeping him alive, because like I said, although he was like 20 feet ahead of the rest of his team, he was soaking so much damage and he just pretty much never died. ZZZ great on the far too, and the Ashe battle really went both ways. It was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw great team composition all around that game. And more than that, just great teamwork in general, because while it is important to pick heroes who can go well together, if you don't play them like they're going well together, it's not going to work. But fortunately, we didn't see any of that. We saw each player playing exactly how they should have, and that's what led us to our draw. So maybe we'll see a bit of a change in strategy, which might make things a little more complicated in the future. But there's only one way to find out, right?
Yeah, I wonder what you do if you're Boise State there, because the ball has been such a terror to Southern California. I don't think you need to stray away from it. I think that's definitely one of the highlights, but things like, it almost felt like Southern California is barely hanging on by a thread, but they still managed to pull through in all the most difficult moments. So maybe adaptations need to be made, or maybe it almost just comes down to those individual mechanics in those moments.
Yeah, well, we saw how hard they were focusing Strider there on that. Like, once they got onto defense against Boise State, obviously they had been focusing him a lot beforehand, but we saw how much more that they were trying to get him out, because they knew that he was a threat. Not to say that the rest of the team wasn't, but having that Strider there to lead the charge, and even more than that, push them back, was really important for BSU, and I think Southern California knew that, and that's why they're so hard focused on making sure that he got eliminated, because once the tank goes down, everything else falls with it. Unless, of course, you have a great play, but those are really hard to pull off when the main damage soaker gets eliminated. Like we'd said before, we see Doc's keys again in Overwatch. Never taking a fair fight means to take fights in unexpected places, like we saw in King's Row. We saw how Strider would constantly go behind lines, how much Frost would stay in the opposite position, so that way the Southern California never really knew where to defend from. And keeping them unprepared. We saw that a lot too, with just a lot of spontaneous battles and flanking, stuff like that. And the tempo was also very crucial. We saw that a lot from Southern California, managing to keep their pace going the entire time there in that last round. So we see all of these keys getting utilized to the best of their abilities, and that's why they are the keys.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we're going to see much more of that out of both teams, as now we're on to New Queen Street as our push map.
Well, we'll only have to see what changes. We've seen Wrecking Ball on this map before do a great job, so we might be seeing Strider sticking with that, but we do know there's that things could always change, and I'm excited to see. Like I always say, I always love a little bit of variety and a little bit of change in strategies and team compositions. We might see a change, but we'll be seeing that here in a few seconds. We've got another great match between Boise State and Southern California. We're excited to see who wins this one.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much it's a decently evenly matched game, although Helios is definitely on the side of Boise State. I mean, obviously you can't get more evenly matched than a draw.
So here in about 7 seconds, we'll probably be seeing those character picks.
Boise State actually subbing out their GPS player. Clear is now in for the Diamond Dog on the Tracer, so it looks like, and I know Clear's a tank player, so that's how much they really trust this Wrecking Ball to be able to get things done.
We see a relatively similar composition from Southern California, except Eris is now playing a Cassidy instead of what we'd seen before with the Ash. But in general, seeing a lot of the same, a lot of similar strategies.
Yep, Doomguard, it's almost a signature pick now with how well he performed. I expect a pretty similar performance. Cassidy once again coming out, and it might get rewarded as a Tracer Wrecking Ball here. All of these coming through. A lot of one of the keys to that strategy, it looks like his Doom guys just ignoring Strider. He's just running in and attempting to kill the back line, and it's working out really well. Looking at Alex, Clear is actually able to pick up ZZ. It's a nice solo kill, and now Southern California is backpedaling and trying to get out. The Lyric's not going to allow that happen. A little quicker, and yeah, as soon as it looked like it was all Southern California, now it's all Boise State. All off the back of a nice individual pick from Clear onto ZZZ, kind of steamrolled their way to the entire team being wiped, but Southern California's going to be back quick. ZZZ is looking like the prime dive victim here, kind of getting picked off and focused here. He's a bit of a liability almost, and I think they're going to have to be a little bit, he's going to either have to be a bit more careful, or the rest of the team is going to be a bit more careful now, as it seems clear that they're going to, no pun intended, but Boise State's is to dive that, but also Clear getting another save on the out of the race.
They're getting pushed back ever so slightly.
some great ultimates out from Southern California too. The Nano, the Barrage, the Elusive. It's definitely looking in your favor now. As Clear has a pulse and he's looking to get a bit sneaky with it. He's coming from his team, sort of telling him where he is. He's going to make a big one here. Just goes a big pass where they are.
Apparently the only output at the ready is Eric with Deadeye, and that could be very dangerous for a bad spot.
Don't let them get away with this!
But having two close side by side,
Strider continuing to be stretched, now working his way towards the minefield. Yeah, despite the injury, he's able to make it out. Bob actually committed into the hallway, but Bob's been ignored. The rest of his team is taking out the lines. As Maverick is losing the high yield here and trying to assert the rest of the players.
Right now.
But Harris doesn't want him to really quite yet. Takes that sauce.
trying to deal some damage, but unfortunately he didn't go anywhere. He was able to somehow change the damage to stay alive.
They took it from us!
4v4 here. Lazy State not really wanting to risk anything yet as they have a pretty sizable lead. They're waiting for the contest with the rest of the team.
My ultimate
They almost hit another pulse bomb, 90% to it.
With a melee against a flying character, it's always funny to see that happen.
Frost clearing up Eris at the same time. That's going to be a nice fight out of Lazy State. And now this is getting into critical territory for Southern California. Almost 100 meters.
Final place in the switch, green guy goes down. Easy almost drops two. It's racing, which I was not expecting. A bit of a change in the composition.
Yeah, I see how he's been getting focused. I think that's almost a necessity now. And it's being focused to Eris. Barely escapes. Yeah, good headshot supported by two long hits. Fluid's gonna be taken down by a punch in the face from ZZZ, and Strider's left wondering where it all went wrong here.
Anyone can conclude to see that again, and it could give them a chance to push forward. There's still 2.5 minutes left in the clock.
On the wrecking ball, all three Max has been playing this, and he's looking at the threat on all three. Southern California is not able to deal with it yet.
Output at the ready. ZZZ pulse bomb and plus bomb on the way. It's get a little chaotic here in the moment, but at the moment, currently just trying to get the team on the goal line. These guys taking a lot of team here.
Showing a bit of respect as the admin goes over the cross and the hero goes over the lure.
Here's a double kill and front bottom. These guys as well. Addle's the only one remaining, and PSU is able to get the robot pushed forward as far as they can. Maybe back up to this wall where they can get
time here in the group. Looks like a 10-6 sniper. Green guy waiting for the pass. He's going to be killed by Strider. And it looks like Boise State's willing to siege this one and maybe wait a bit longer, given that there's only 40 seconds left for Southern California to get 100 meters here.
Yeah, they're in a real tough spot right now. But BSU might still be able to pull this back and get all the way to the end, but they don't have much time to know this team with Southern California. That's why he's going to have to win this free fight. Early
like despite some pretty solid individual performances out this time from Southern California, just seems like overall it wasn't really able to go their ways. I think generally Boise State had a bit better teamwork.
Absolutely. We saw how well each, like I mentioned before, it's always important to know how well your character plays in comparison to all of the other heroes. But something I didn't mention that goes along with that is just knowing how your character works specifically. Because while it is important to play as a team, it is also important to play on your own if you're stuck in a very specific situation. Like we saw that from Clear, who was having to sneak behind all the time, trying to get eliminations off. We saw how well he's doing on his own, as well as when he needed to, when he was in a team fight. So great composition, great team play, great individual play from both sides, but Boise State just barely managed to, not barely, they got it by quite a lot, but they managed to get the robot pretty far, real close to the end, not giving Southern California a chance to push back.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Clear, I mean, he came in, third map, and this is his first map, and he put on a pretty good performance with some good pulse bombs, and overall, I think, I mean, he kind of forced the enemy ZZZ to swap to Tracer to match him as well, because he was getting victimized on those dives.
Poor ZZZ, as far in that game, they knew that he was going to be a pain, so they focused him so hard, which is really unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like picking Tracer was a better option, but it still just didn't work out in their favor.
Yeah, and I like how much Boise State is willing to stick with the Wrecking Ball. I like that they're confident on it and they're willing to stick by it, and we'll see if they do it on Surabasa as well.
Yep, no surprise with this map pick. There's only a few options, but this is usually the typical one, so it's no surprise to see it again. But I always love to see it. It's a beautiful map with lots of great flash points to take. So now we'll just see what happens here. Will BSU manage to take the win? Or will Southern California take this round for themselves and potentially put BSU in a bad spot? We'll wait to find out. Another great game between both teams. Excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I want to see Southern California kind of change up their composition a little, as it looked to be serving them great on Kings Road, but it kind of fell off a little bit on New Queen Street.
Well, the fun thing about composition is Boise State hasn't changed all that much. It seems like that's really just working for them. Oh, we need a bit of a change with Frog. Over here changing up as well as Hex and Strider. Very big change, not at the Wrecking Ball anymore, but maybe that's for the best, depending on the fact that this is now Flashpoint.
And maybe last game, Clear was just showing Diamond Dog actually how to play Tracer, giving him a little guide. And so now Diamond Dog is back, and he's playing Tracer, actually deciding to play the Junker Queen after all.
Initially,
He's a little indecisive, but hey, they had time to figure something out. No, not there.
Yeah, I think I like that with this comp a good amount. Junker Queen's shout, able to boost the movement speed of all the players, and
Obviously, the Flashpoint doesn't open up immediately. They're still keeping
getting involved as always, not one to stray away from the fight. And good flank off from Diamond. He's shooting at once. Seems like they don't even want to fight on Lily.
This flashpoint for themselves. California's got to go back in there and take it.
And it's interesting now, they're just still willing to change it up when that's on the line. Right now is Alice taking down.
they're in
Flashpoint back. That was a
I'm
great
shocked.
of that.
It never even went the way of Southern California. They were able to start out the whole time struggling. It's actually a legacy performance this game so far. Trading off what I thought was just his comfort pick of the Wrecking Ball, and he's looking equally as good on the Junker Queen here.
We saw Doomguy and ZZZ doing a great job at trying to take the point back, but unfortunately Strider just managed to stay alive for too long, being backed up by Diamond Dog. Very great team kill from Boise State. Great job on keeping track of them and just taking them out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, hiding in the
Easy
corner.
access to this flashpoint.
Springing out like an evil jack in the box is Boise State. And it looks like they're almost ready to try and do something to
once again, a straight team kill from BSU. A drastic change from what we saw near the start. Nearly the third team kill in a row.
Think you can tie the fight? Let's find out.
This should not be working so well from Boise State, but just these sneaky little plays with the Venture Duo are doing so much damage if not accounted for. Just really good. Now Boise State on match point, and not an old advantage necessarily. Southern California are going to have to win this one.
Yeah, but they've got the offensive advantage right now, especially with that orbital laser. They'll help them last quite a while. And Boise State is pretty far behind the moment.
So quickly.
Yeah, we saw that orbital ray get dropped, help them keep them alive. Southern California is able to take this flashpoint. Doing a great job at defending, but
throws into the ground and timing
so now they're putting a bad stop once again with Diamond Dog doing his best to stay alive, grabbing a health pack.
Yep.
As Ulrich follows.
Southern California, when the lights are brightest, are showing up now, and with so many ults online, I think this one's probably going to go their way. And Boise State maybe going to have to look towards the next point with almost 5 ultimates all online.
Wow, great play from Eric, not getting back.
That's two pretty important ults that are gone now. Southern California might have a chance to rally back, but they did actually just use their rally.
Locate satellite vector. Running out the disco. Initiation.
Great play from Boise State, but Southern California
Okay,
was
I'm
just
ready to
packed
go
away
then.
with that orbital laser.
Yeah,
They take this flashpoint for themselves. They are making a bit of an impact here.
I have to say that, I mean, that one was completely brought on by the Rampage getting hindered by the Cassidy flashbang. That was a great play out from Eris that kind of saved them. That was definitely going to hit all 4 Southern California players lined up, and that probably would have led to a much more precarious situation.
Yeah, and the Doom guy came back and everything went
him a few times so far, but Eris is really showing up this map.
Absolutely. The aim he has had is incredible.
Yeah, not only that, but yeah, those flashbangs now. A bit before maybe on King's Row, I didn't think they were looking too great, but now he's really dialed it in and has gotten some very impactful ones.
Absolutely. I've seen Idol pushing back Diamond Dog so much.
There's a new god of war!
Currently a very even ultimate advantage right now. So things can go either very well or very poorly for Boise State. We know both teams are capable.
Yeah, Rampage, one of the most impactful roles in the game. We can say that Boise State, Eris actually almost catches Lure out early in the lead, barely gets away.
Look, he's so effective!
Get him! Southern California alive, but it feels like Boise State just retreated just because they did not feel like that was
Fight here and fight hard!
only one left is Red Bunny. Wow, great shot. Juno taking down a Juno. Boise State is able to take the ball back. Only got 25% left on this point. Southern California is able to pull it back together. Boise State will be taking this game to them.
The rally was able to be saved on the side of Boise State, so while Diamond Dog also gets his first another King's Row moment. Boise State able to clean it up with a 3-to-a draw performance. Good game.
Wow.
From both teams, yeah.
That was great on both sides. While BSU just ended up having the advantage there at the end, we saw how much pressure that Southern California was pushing onto BSU there at the end, and I was very caught off guard by that, but not as caught off guard by the not once, not twice, but 3 times BSU managed to catch them off guard, jumping out of nowhere and eliminating nearly the entire team. Team wipes the first 2 times, all but one on the 3rd time. Fool me once, now fool them 3 times. That was so much fun to watch in that last game.
You gotta imagine if it maybe could have gone differently if it didn't go down that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's crazy that it managed to work 3 whole times. I would have never expected that.
Well, to be fair, we don't know the specifics to their strategy, because while it seemed like they were just jumping out one after the other, maybe they had a different strategy, a different placement they were doing it from. So while they were more trying to be more aware of the fact that they were going to get jumped at, maybe they weren't ready for the fact that it would be happening 3 times in a row.
Yeah, and I think it's impossible to end this broadcast without saying that Strider had an amazing game today. He was absolutely a threat on the wrecking ball, and his Junker Queen almost even looked better.
Absolutely. Those knife throws were lethal. We saw how well he played those 2 different tank characters. We can't deny that everyone played well today, but we really got to give the highlight to Strider there because he just played so well.
Yeah, and definitely South Carolina. It was a close. It was close at a lot of points. Although it was 3 to a draw, it definitely could have gone considerably differently in different ways. I think the DPS lineup of Eris and ZZZ, they looked good at times. Doom Guy, of course, was great. I mean, he had that insane play on Kings Row to pull it back, but overall, I think Boise State just had a little bit more there in the tank.
Yeah, it seems so. Well, it was a great game tonight. We saw great plays from both teams, but BSU managed to win 3 rounds versus the 1 draw. Southern California did not win any of those rounds, but it still was a great game from both sides. So we got more Overwatch coming up here soon. We got a great season. We'll see you again soon. Have a great night.